to more pleasant subjects. I started attending First UU when we first moved back to Springfield in 2012, and shortly after that, we met some of our fellow UUs, Bill Stoll and Leslie Sawyer. And Leslie told us of her dream to build the area's first cage-free, no-kill cat shelter. And being cat people, naturally, we were interested and supported the efforts. And the first time we went out there, the shelter was in an old barn that they had kind of cobbled together to where it could hold a number of cats. And today, we have built a fine shelter. And of course, there's still a lot more cats than we can take care of. But the cats you see there, you walk in and the cats are playing in rooms or napping, which cats do quite well, or just getting whatever other care they need. And they're in large rooms together or smaller rooms together. That's where frequently a litter of kittens will stay in a room until they're ready to wean. All of our cats they're spayed or neutered, they have their medical treatment, and they're ready to go. But Leslie is a wonderful lover of animals. She moved here just so that she could do this. And she extends her compassion for all creatures to her vegan diet, which she also will discuss. And I just consider her one of the most wonderful people that I know, and it's a pleasure to introduce Leslie to you today.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie Sawyer, and my pronouns are she and her. And let's see, I have curly hair and blue eyes, and I'm wearing a flowery dress today. But gosh, I just have to start. It's my history with this church goes back to when Bill and I first moved here from Chicago, and we used to come on a really regular basis when we didn't have 110 cats to take care of and a shelter and everything. And, life happens and we created our dream. And because of that, we haven't been here in several years. And it's actually quite emotional being back here because I missed this as our community. And Bill and I have been talking about ways in which hopefully we can be more involved because we would love to be able to come back and be a part of this wonderful, wonderful community of people. So I've been asked to share my story, and I understand this is my story, and so don't feel bad if you can't relate. Everyone's different, but I'm going to share about my truths and what I've learned throughout my life and what I'm continuing to learn, especially in relationship to animals. My parents tell me stories about when I was just a little toddler, and I would go into hysterics if they killed a bug, and I would cry and carry on, and I would do my best to try to save the bugs and everything. And they always thought that was a little weird because they weren't like that, but somehow I was. And I also remember a time in which my dad ran over a snake with the lawnmower, and the snake was still alive, and I was just a little grade schooler, and I ran into the house and I grabbed Band-Aids and I was bandaging the snake, thinking, okay, this is what we do. And I wasn't afraid of the snake. It didn't intimidate me. I just wanted to help it. My family, I grew up we had a boat, and my dad especially really loved to fish. And it was really, in fact, even today, I still think about watching the fish suffocate and feeling their pain, just having this intense connection with what they were going through. And so who I am as a person, that's kind of like where my roots come from. There was times I wish I could shut it off, because there is so much suffering. And there was a time in my life where I really, really tried to shut it down because the emotions of it was pulled on me. But as I got older, I realized it's really a gift, and it's really a blessing to be able to share this in front of you and to feel safe and not feel embarrassed by it, because there was a large time in my life in which I was embarrassed by my connection with other creatures' emotions. So I appreciate this being a safe space to kind of share that. Being raised in today's culture, a lot of times, we get the message that animals are ours to use, to do what we please, that they're here for us to do whatever. So growing up in a culture, and even my own family, our dogs were our pets and we loved them like family, but it's okay to eat a cow. It's okay to kill a fish. My dad had a gun, and he wouldn't tell me he was going hunting, but I knew what he did with the gun. I was brought up just kind of believing that it was okay to do what we wanted to with animals. At dinner time, Mom was like, okay, you need to eat your meat. You will not be healthy if you didn't eat your meat. And so I remember we had our portion of meat and our vegetable and our starch, and our plate was all portioned, and we were expected to eat everything. And so growing up, I didn't really question too much about it. I somehow rationalized that animals that were produced for food were somehow separate, that somehow they didn't feel, that somehow they just didn't care, that they didn't know any different. So it was okay for them to stay caged and to be miserable and live in horrible conditions and to be produced for food because I didn't know any better. I don't know. This is kind of like my thinking at the time. And it wasn't until my early 20s that I got a flyer in the mail, and I'll never forget this. It's a life-changing experience. I got a flyer from PETA, and it talked about animals that were used for testing on cosmetics. And so there was this thing you could send away for this free vegetarian starter kit. And I thought, I wonder what that's all about. I really didn't know much about vegetarianism. This is going back 30 years. It's like people that were identified as vegetarians, you kind of looked at like they were like from another planet. So I didn't know anyone who was vegetarian. I didn't know that, but I was kind of curious and I wanted to learn more. And so I sent away for their vegetarian kit. And then I started learning about factory farming. And I was shocked. I thought, don't all animals come from like old McDonald's farm? It's like all happy cows and chickens running around. And I didn't even know that factory farming was even a thing. And so I started to look into it. And the more I looked into it, the more horrified I became. And I started watching some videos about it and really educating myself. And so the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, eating meat doesn't correspond with who I am. And so there was this incongruence, and it's like, wait, I don't have to sustain my life at the expense of leading to suffering of others, that I could be healthy. I never realized I could be healthy without meat. And so I started to cut out meat, and needless to say, I didn't quite understand how to be healthy being a vegetarian. And I did go through a phase in which I pretty much binged on French fries and pasta. And I really did. I mean, in my early 30s, I went to the doctor, and the doctor was very concerned about me because I was borderline obese with cholesterol that was extremely high. I'm like, how could I have high cholesterol if I don't eat meat? But I was eating a lot of saturated fat, and I didn't understand the correlation between all that. But actually the doctor gave me the best wake-up call I could have gotten, as he said, if I didn't change certain things in my lifestyle, that I would live a shorter, unhealthy life. And that was my wake-up call. I'll never forget, I was 32 years old. So again, I didn't want to go back to eating meat. And so I really started to change my diet. I started to learn more about healthy foods and eating more whole foods, not processed foods, eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, and learning more about protein. You know, one of the biggest questions I get from people is, but how do you get your protein? And I have to say that it was a learning curve, but I probably get more protein than many people who actually eat meat. So, you know, I learned about different types of powders I can add to my drinks, and meat alternatives, and tofu, and legumes, and actually kale has a lot of protein in it. So vegetables, there's certain vegetables that have a lot of protein, grains. And so I started to incorporate those protein into my diet, more protein. And so before I knew it, my cholesterol went down naturally. My cholesterol, I go to the doctor now, and the doctor's like, what are you doing? And so, you know, my cholesterol's down. I sleep great. I have so much energy. I can't even tell you guys. It's, you know, I'm getting towards 60 now. And, you know, I watch some of my same age peers and some of the struggles that they're dealing with their health and just their activity and their well-being. And I really attribute a lot of my health to the choices in my food. And I do exercise on a regular basis, which I think is very important. And so I take care of my body. And so you can be healthy and not have to eat meat. In fact, like I said, I don't eat meat, and I feel as healthy, if not healthier, than a lot of my age mates. And it's really interesting too, as far as being a vegetarian. When I went vegetarian 30 years ago, you couldn't just walk into the local store and get vegetarian meat substitutes. You know, it was you had to go to a specialty store and pay a lot of money. And so I'm so grateful that there's so much access now to alternatives to things like that. Oh, I forgot to cue, I'm sorry, the slideshow. I did bring some slides, and I don't know if that can be cued to roll through as I'm talking, because it may make some sense. It'll show some pictures I just sent, just so you can understand some of the history behind my story. So as I got older, I learned a little bit more. So I learned, with the animals, okay, the animal welfare, and also animals also relates to like my clothing, wait, leather? I never thought about where leather came from. That comes from the skin of an animal, or even silk. I didn't really think about that. What about the products that I'm using on my body, the lotions? Did animals have to suffer in order for that lotion to be made? Or my household products, my cleaners, so it really shed some light as far as these products just don't appear out of the sky, that they all have a story. And does that story of that product correspond with who I am? So as I got older, I became more sensitive towards the environment. And I've always been a big nature person. I've always had the greatest respect for our wonderful planet Earth. And then I started to learn about how the production of animals for meat impacts the environment. And it was like, oh my goodness. I never had thought about that as I was older or younger, but I actually just recently wanted to get some more up-to-date statistics on this, and it's pretty darn amazing. 80% of deforestation is due to cattle ranching. And so 60% of biodiversity loss is due to meat production. And the biodiversity, it has to do with our ecosystem. It's what holds everything together, what makes this wonderful earth we have work. So 60% loss is due to meat production. The overfarming of crops is taking an impact on our soil quality. And that is, our soil, without enriched soil, we can't, the earth basically dies. There is excessive water use used to raise crops, provide for the animals used for meat and the slaughter process. And then the immense amount of greenhouse gas emissions from animal waste, food production, the transport of animals, and slaughter, and the slaughter process is huge. And this is going to be pretty amazing. Okay, beef, the production of beef is actually the thing that takes the greatest toll on the environment out of all the animals used for meat. They all do, but beef is the main culprit. And this is an astounding statistic that 1 kilogram of beef production, 1 kilogram, requires 25 kilograms of grain and 15,000 liters of water to produce only 1 kilogram of beef. So when I think about that, and I think about the resources of this earth and how precious it is, that is just astounding to me. And I think about how those resources can go to helping the earth and the people and everything, instead of producing something that 1 kilogram of beef, it just doesn't measure for me as far as where our other needs could go. So that was really amazing. And so sometimes people, when I talk to people about my diet and everything, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't ever go without meat. I mean, it's like, I just can't give up my hamburger or my steak or whatever. It's not really about giving it up. It's about the tiny changes, because each of those tiny changes makes a difference. I remember way back when I was pretty young, we did meatless Mondays. So 1 day a week, we just didn't have meat in our diet. That makes a difference. Just that 1 day, if you do that 1 day every week, it does make a difference. Or maybe 1 meal a day. Vow that for breakfast, you're not going to eat bacon and sausage anymore. Okay, so just 1 meal a day, that all adds up. And then maybe once you get into it, maybe you'll decide later, hey, this isn't so bad after all. I can do 2 meals a day, or I can do three days a week, or whatever. It's those baby steps. When I first went vegetarian, I didn't just go all in. It was baby steps, and I had to figure out what was going to work for me. But everything makes a difference. If you living vegetarian nowadays is much different than it was back then. And so there's all kinds of recipes online. And so just Google vegetarian recipes online. There's all kinds of meal plans. Bill, my husband, and I, for years now, we've been ordering a box of food. And you could, a lot of people might be familiar with HelloFresh. We actually get Green Chef, which is more organic. And then you can just put in vegan or vegetarian, and all the ingredients are there. You just put together the recipe, and it's all balanced, nutritionally good stuff. So it really isn't that as hard nowadays to go vegetarian as it was. Just real quick, I know I've been talking for a while, but I believe that who I am, my truth, led me to be here in Missouri. Some people may know about the story of the owl, which is ironic. It was an animal that actually led my way to being here in Missouri. And if anyone's interested in my owl story, I'll share that with you later. But but an owl brought me here, and I believe I'm here for a purpose. This area of the country really is horrible as far as, in my opinion, the treatment of animals, no matter what it is. And cats really have a tough time of it out here. All you have to do is just open the internet and you'll see all kinds of horrible stories about hoarding situations and kittens being dumped and dogs being dumped. And I didn't even realize that people just dump animals randomly. It was a new thing moving from Chicago out here, that people actually just dump animals. But I believe I'm here for a purpose. And you know, I have a table up here with all kinds of information about Eden Animal Haven. It's really been quite a journey, and I just have to say I couldn't do it without my husband Bill back there, and my family support. And we moved out here not knowing anyone, and through forming relationships. And this is one of the communities in which we were able to form relationships that really helped us get off the ground. And so it was because of the relationships and because I put my dream out there. It's like, this is my dream. I want to have a place that rescues cats, but that cats can have a good quality of life, in which they aren't euthanized to make rooms, but in which I have rooms in which the cats can play in. And so it was really interesting because I just shared my story with people and my dream. And, you know, kind of like, you know, build it and they will come. Well, I'd shared my vision, and before I knew it, and you'll see through some of the slides that maybe we're showing how we started from nothing, and out of nothing, we are now saving, last year we saved 365 feline lives that otherwise probably wouldn't have made it. And we are going to continue to grow. And again, it's getting the word out to people, to help people understand that we can make the world a better place. And whether it's helping animals or helping people or whatever, but we all have that power. We all have that deep down. We are all good people, and we all can make a positive difference in this world. And so if I had to just wrap something up, and it's been a journey, and I'm continuing to learn more about who I am, but for each and every one of you to figure out your truth, to dig in and figure out what your truth is, and are your choices in line with who you are, who you really are, not who people want you to be, not what society tells you you should be, not what your parents brought you up to believing you should be, but who you are, and for you to live that truth and not be ashamed of it, even though it goes against the grain. And I am blessed that I am living my truth. And I am blessed by those who are here today to hear my story. I've never shared it this much in public before. And just encourage you all to live your truth. And when it comes to animals, just ask yourself what your truth is regarding animals, our planet, your health, and what you can do to make this world a better place. Thank you.